Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to A Real Point of View. My name is Greg Morgan, and I am the host of this wonderful wonderment of movie criticism. And I'm joined by my faithful companions, Miss Karen D, and also to Mr. Larry Yumkowski. Karen D is the must-see movie. I'm sorry. See, I got it all backwards. Karen D is the movie maven, and we've got Larry Yumkowski. He's the must-see movie film critic. All of us are internet film critics, and we're coming to you from the internet and our YouTube channel and A Real Point of View. So today we're going to talk about one of the stars out there who's doing a lot of films and is starting to get re-noticed, really. A very good actress. And, you know, it's kind of ironic. Sometimes she's in some good movies and sometimes she's not, but she still seems to show her star power, and that's Charlize Theron. So welcome to our show, and we'll be talking about her movies and what the impact is to us. And hopefully leave something with you guys out there in video land. So welcome to, again, A Real Point of View. And our subject is Charlize Theron. Hey, Larry. Hey, Karen. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Hanging in there. I mean, literally in there, because I haven't been out there.
Yeah, with all the things that are going on out in the world, one of our coworkers here, one of our associates is actually doing his day job, and sadly, the day job's gone into the night job. So it's been kind of crazy out there. So we're just glad to be here and be with you guys to talk about movies, the things we like to talk about the most these days. So with that being said, Charlize Theron, you know, I've seen her in quite a few films. Some films, you know, early on, didn't know her very well as an actress, but more recent films of late, one to talk about, not one I was going to talk about, but just one to mention, which really got me notice of her, was the movie Monster. And then since then, especially, a lot of other films, and more recently, they did a remake of Mad Max. But there are other films out there that we've watched that we've enjoyed, and that weren't necessarily the blockbuster types, but I thought she did a good job in them. So we're going to talk about those films, I guess. So Karen, why don't we start with you? Any ideologies, any information about Charlize before we get started really talking about the films?
Well, she's a native of South Africa. She grew up in a city called, I can't remember what it's called, but it starts with a B. Benoni is what it's called. And it's right outside of Johannesburg. And I mean, she grew up there, but her mother bought her a one-way ticket to Los Angeles in 1994. That's how she came to the United States. And she made all the rounds of the agents out in Hollywood, but they weren't interested. And the way that she found a pathway to her first job in the movies, which is a really weird story, is that she was in a bank and she was probably like trying to rub two nickels together. She had a check from her mother for $500. The bank refused to cash the check. So she made a huge scene at the bank because she was so upset that they wouldn't cash the check, and an agent gave her his card.
Well, there you go.
And so...
Squeaky wheel.
Right, squeaky wheel, totally squeaky wheel. But with the condition that she learned, she probably had a very thick accent because she, you know, was speaking Afrikaner. I mean, she came from a land where she spoke Afrikaans. So the condition was that she learned English, much better English, which she did by watching soap operas on television.
Well, there you go.
Right. So and then like her first job was like a 3-second appearance in Children of the Corn, Children of the Corn 3. Well, I didn't even know I kind of lost track at 2, but anyway, they did. There was Children of the Corn 3 Urban Harvest. I'm like, seriously? Because if you don't have corn by 2, you really should think of another crop. But anyway, she had 3 seconds there, non-speaking, and then she went on to like just bigger and bigger roles. And the rest, as they say, is history. She is a trained ballet dancer. So it's another thing, she's very graceful. She comes by it honestly because she's
very graceful, very physical.
But
She
she used to be a ballet dancer. That's why.
She's a real good physical actor. And so many actors in film are not. They have to keep still for that tighter camera, almost as if they're doing it for television. And she can do it so naturally, and it's really a pleasure to watch her on the screen because of that.
Yeah, and that's going to be exemplified in her newest movie, The Old Guard, where she's throwing some good uppercuts and right crosses in that film. So, yeah, she's a very physical actress, and even the film that I was going to talk about tonight, definitely a physical actress, even in that film. So, yeah, I can see that. And of course, Mad Max, Monster. Yeah, it's very apparent that she has that ability. So. And she's pretty tall. She's like 5'11", something like that. 5'10", 5'11". So,
yeah.
So very much so. So, Karen, what movies did you have for Charlize Theron tonight?
Well, the first one that I want to talk about is Bombshell, 2019 film about the comeuppance, the way in which Roger Ailes, who was chairman of NBC News at the time, got sort of held accountable for creating an environment that allowed sexual harassment to flourish in the news department, and mainly because he was the main perpetrator of sexual harassment. The movie, in addition to Charlize Theron, who plays Megyn Kelly, who's like the news anchor, one of the news anchors. Nicole Kidman is another news anchor, and then Margot Robbie plays like a new news anchor who's sort of up and coming. And Roger Ailes she's very ambitious, and Roger Ailes, who's played brilliantly, in my opinion, by John Lithgow, has his eye on her. And when it becomes apparent that Roger Ailes is like, well, maybe I will groom, Margot Robbie, then, Megyn Kelly just sort of, who was trying to stay on the sidelines, just said, I'm going to have to do something to protect Margot Robbie from him because he's a predator. So that's, and the story's based on true events. There was a lawsuit and there was a huge comeuppance, and Roger Ailes is the disgraced chairman of NBC News. All of that is true. How the movie pulled it together is another story. The movie, in my opinion, and I was very excited when this movie was in coming attractions. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of seeing the movie, I have to say there's less of this movie than meets the eye, unfortunately. Because it's an okay movie, but it's not a great movie, in my opinion. And the reason that it's not a great movie, is because I think the movie tries to do too much, given its 2-hour span. This is a huge subject. And to do justice to how and why this sort of thing flourishes, I don't think enough sort of groundwork was done for that. And it's not like you need a 5-hour movie to do this. It's just that where you begin the story and where you end the story has to sort of create like a complete sort of, being. The story has beginning, middle, and end, and you have to pick the right point to begin so that everybody is at the same place. And this movie kind of really does, and I think it kind of presumes that we're all, we all know the story, so let's just start there. It's like, well, maybe not. And even if we know the story, we don't necessarily trust that you're telling the story that we think ought to be told, because we think we know the truth, and you're saying you're telling the truth, but it's a historical film with dramatic license. I don't know what you're talking about, which part of it is true and which part of it isn't. So that's one problem. I don't think enough flesh was given to the characters, to the main characters, Charlize Theron's character, Nicole Kidman's character, Margot Robbie's character. I didn't like the way in which they looked. They all, I mean, and I know this was done on purpose, but they looked alike, like they were all blonde, and they all had like this airbrushed look. I guess that was on purpose to sort of exemplify what passed for TV news. But it was just kind of off-putting to me. It was a little distracting. And like the actual like human beings, you know, given that this movie stars 3 like giant, like powerhouse women in film, that doesn't happen that often. And the movie is about these women. I just thought there'd be more to them than what I saw on the screen. And there, in my opinion, there wasn't enough there to think of them as people. They sort of came across like symbols. Symbols in a story that was symbolic of another story. And so it left me feeling a little unsatisfied. And I was really rooting for this to be a fabulous movie. You know, because I love Nicole Kidman. She's one of my favorite actresses. I don't have a huge opinion about Margot Robbie, but I loved her in I did love her in The Favorite. I think was she in The Favorite?
She was.
Okay, yes, I loved her in The Favorite, and but I don't know enough about her work to have a specific opinion about her. But I don't dislike her. But I love Charlize Theron too. Even though a lot of movies she's been in, you couldn't pay me to watch, but still, I like her as an actress. So, so I was rooting for this to be a great movie, and so that it was only okay was really disappointing, because to me the subject is too important for the movie not to be great.
So it would have been served a little bit better if it was a miniseries, because then at least they would have had a little bit more time to develop the characters and get the point across. And as you alluded to, started from a point where it was a true beginning, and we'd be able to follow up to whatever else is being done and said within the realms of the essence of what was really going on at the time.
Yeah, possibly.
How about you, Larry? You got an interesting Charlize Theron film for us to discuss?
Well, I'll say I really liked Atomic Blonde, and that came out in 2017. Here she is. She is MI6's secret weapon, and it's the last days of the Berlin Wall, and the days of that super spy, they're over. You know, in the way that we think about, you know, East Germany and West Germany and the Berlin Wall and La Carré and the spy who came in from the cold and that type of stuff. And yet, with the ending of this Cold War, she realizes that there's some bad actors who are going to continue unless they're put down. And so she gets involved in this plot to get rid of the people who are bad actors when the wall is up, who are continuing going to be bad actors when the wall comes down. She gets involved in it, and she brings down these people hard. What I love about this film is it doesn't pull any punches. It really shoves your face right into this. There's no quick quips like in a Bond film of the early 60s. You know, there's no we're good and you're bad. It's we're all bad. We work in this part of international espionage that everyone is here's all bad. And she finds a way at the end of this whole Cold War to do something right. Not something good. She's very good at what she does, but she finds something to do something that is right. And I get this, and there's not that much dialogue in this film, but the dialogue that is there is real important, because in some cases the dialogue is very specific to the actions we're seeing on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And in other cases, the dialogue refers to the subtext of the whole thing and has nothing to do with what we're seeing on the screen. And so you see that struggle within her, that subtext of trying to do something right versus her job.
Mm-hmm.
And she does it such a good job. The camera work in this film is outstanding. And shame on me, I don't know who the director of photography was in this film. I felt like they had a good script. They put the right person in the job, and she is the one who makes this film work. Let's not make any mistake. It's not the other people. They're good, but she's the one who makes it work. And the makers of the film make sure that she steps forward as the real driving force for the story in this film.
Yeah, I liked it too. I didn't think I was going to like it. I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, okay, it's and I think I hesitated quite a bit before I actually sat down and watched it. I think my wife said, let's just watch it. And we watched it and we were like riveted, because it was like, it kept our attention totally the whole time. And I thought she did a good job in it. And I agree with you. She was actually the perfect person for it. She treated her role, her agent, her persona so well that it seemed like that was really her.
Yeah. And and the little homages in this film, for instance, there's a very specific homage to La Femme Nikita.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific homage. And let's face it, these spy thrillers rarely have a dominant woman in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And she
That's
just
true.
flips that concept on its head and just turns it around. She goes, and it's incredible what she did. In Femme Nikita, part of what makes that film work is whether if it's the American version or the original version, the French version, you see this woman eventually taking over to become the dominant force.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, make no mistake, from the very beginning, she is already the dominant force.
Mm-hmm. And ironically, maybe that is the case in trying to pick films that you want to be a part of, regardless of so much the rest of the film, we'll say. Just alluding to what Karen said, she's like the really good part of the film, even though everything else is not necessarily that great. But she did good.
Yeah.
And so in the movie that I decided to take a look at, it was Snow White and the Huntsman. So the storyline itself is taking the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs very loosely and putting it in a more dramatic, more volatile framework in order to kind of update the storyline for a modern audience. So in this particular film, Charlize Theron plays the evil stepmother. I'm probably not going to say the name correctly, Ravana. And so she shows you from the beginning, in the essence of this story, that not only is she the force to be reckoned with, she impacts her will upon everything and everybody. Now, obviously, in being the evil stepmother, you expect her to be evil and all that. But there's a difference between just being evil and being calculating with the evil and purposeful in her evilness. Not just being mean and ornery, but purposeful to get what she wants. And that is exactly what this particular queen has done. She basically, in essence, gets into this kingdom, which is a wealthier kingdom than her own, by pretending to be the damsel in distress. The glass soldiers who are holding her captive, and the person who rescues her, which is a richer kingdom and a richer king, thinks that he's rescuing her from these evil soldiers, which were her evil soldiers.
Fake.
I know.
Psych.
And so very calculating. And then it gets to the point where now that she's got this situation, she's impacting her will, all this stuff. The king has another daughter, or has a daughter in Snow White, and all these things are going on. She manipulates and finds a way to kill the father. So everything that Charlize Theron's character does in this film has a consequence, because all she's trying to do is maintain and sustain and be rich while she's doing it. Doesn't care about what everybody else is doing. Doesn't care. So in the realms of this essence, there's a spell that her mother, the queen mother, put on her in order for her to have longevity and live forever. Well, sadly, that's at the expense of younger people, younger women.
There's always a catch.
Sure, sapping their souls and sapping their strength out of them so that she can live longer. Well, she also has, like any other king or queen, they have their best advice from their right-hand man. Well, ironically, in this, her right-hand man's a mirror. And we know the story, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all? And the mirror keeps looking at her going, well, it used to be you, but not anymore. And in this movie, it tells her, not saying that it's just Snow White, it's saying that if you don't do this, and if you don't do that, you're out of here. Not just losing, but you're gonna die. She finds out that Snow White has a lot to do with her longevity. And so she keeps Snow White in this tower, and Snow White escapes and gets out of there because of the Duke and his son, the Duke's son. And so she gets out of there and she escapes, but now she's got to find it because she needs to eat that heart. Get that heart. So she tricks a sad, helpless, mentally helpless, because it's definitely mentally helpless, character that's played by Chris Hemsworth, and who's the huntsman in the title there, and sends him after her to kill her and or bring her back to be killed. And I'm not going to say the whole essence of the story, but all I got to say is this is a crazy ride as this story goes back and forth. Sometimes, and I know everybody who's listens to us at all knows that I'm a purist, and it's hard for me to change my mind is about when a movie and or story has its initial essence. And here's the story of Snow White being, in my opinion, trampled on. And if it wasn't for Charlize Theron, there would be no real reason to watch this film. So if the film gets out of a scale from 1 to 10 and gets like a 6 from me, it's because Charlize Theron was generous. In it. And Charlize Theron was in it, because if she wasn't in it, it might have got a 2.5 maybe.
Wow. And one of the things about these fairy tales, the original fairy tales, they are very gruesome.
They are.
They're gruesome. They're horrific, and there's really no good guy in these things. When you get in looking at these things, they are morality stories on what happens if you step away from the village.
Right.
They are moral. If you befriend a stranger, if you do this, if you do that, mm-hmm. And if you trust your parents too much in a couple of these stories, you know. So and Disney.
Or if you're motivated by greed, or if you
Yeah, and Disney
anything negative or
changed
bad,
all of
right?
that. Disney changed all of these grim fairy tales to be something sweet and wholesome. And when we start telling these fairy tales more in the more in the way they are meant to be told, they're far darker, and this film lends itself to that. It gives us the darker side of this, and you know what? Most people don't like it because of Disney, because of what Disney did.
I'm gonna do you one better than that, Larry. That's not even my reason, because I grew up on the Grimm fairy tales, and I mean the Grimm part of the Grimm, and reading it in the library and the stories that I got. I get that. I get the dark side.
Grim.
And I get the dark side. However, this wasn't as good as that. That's the point.
I agree with you.
And so therefore, for me, it didn't even touch on that good quality of that essence of what the Grimm fairy tales was really trying to express and
well, how would you compare it? How would you, even though this other movie's not a Charlize Theron movie, how would you compare it to the Red Riding Hood film that came out recently?
What Red Riding Hood movie that came
Well,
out?
Red Riding, it turns out that her father is the wolf.
No, but what's the name of the movie?
I think it's called
Red or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just haven't heard of this movie.
Yeah, I saw that movie. I didn't really like that overly that much either, although it was that was actually a violent movie. I don't know. I and dark,
Mm-hmm.
and even Riding Hood's essence was pretty dark in that film.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really like that movie as well either. But it was a better realism.
Well, I think it stayed more true to itself.
Right, but then
I think it stayed more true to itself than the
fairy tale, fairy tale that we, as children, were given.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. But going back to this film, I don't know. I wouldn't, if it wasn't for her in it. And see, the ending of the film makes me wonder why they have a sequel. So the sequel's coming out. If it hasn't come out yet, I think it's coming out either this year or next year. Because I know it's in production.
They had to do it twice.
Is she in it? Is she in it?
Oh, that's the irony. She's in it.
Oh, wow.
So, well, I don't know if she's in it. I know, yeah, she's in it. I know she's in it. So anyway, so they made another movie. So obviously, they're not just listening to me as a film critic, but at the same time,
I don't know why not.
I know, right? But at the same time, if they did listen to me, they probably would have been happy because they're saying, well, Greg, we're making another movie anyway. Despite your opinion and your critique, which is probably much better than the second movie too. And that's just me being biased and maybe a little salty. But yeah, I didn't think they should have made another movie. Despite how much you feel sorry for Hemsworth's character, you don't feel that sorry because he was being really stupid throughout the majority of the film. And you don't feel that heartfelt for the Duke because she was kind of playing the Duke and he just was a friend even though he wanted to be more than a friend. All these things that were going on. But at the same time, you know, sometimes they don't want to leave well enough, well, not even well enough. They just don't want to leave certain things alone. So here too, we have another film. So anyway, so we've got about 7 minutes left, you guys. I would say special mentions of anything, any other films that she was involved in Because
Well,
again, I think she's a really good actress.
I have to mention this one film. It's called Sweet November, which is a remake of a movie called Sweet November. I really love the I think 1968 version with Sandy Dennis and oh God, what's the actor's name? Anthony Newley. In this version, it was like something I really, after I saw Atomic Blonde and after seeing the John Wick films, I thought, wouldn't it be great to get Keanu Reeves and our star of the day in a movie together? Wouldn't that be cool? Well, that's what Sweet November is. You get Charlize Theron and Keanu Reeves in this movie, and it sucks.
Okay, great. Lovely.
It totally blows chunks, you know. I mean, and here you got, you know, a couple of actors who have got enough chops to make something work. And throughout the whole film, I'm thinking this, you know, this mediocre film from the 1960s was a far better film. Sandy Dennis being a stage actress and Anthony Newley being a stage actor and producer do a marvelous job. The story of how that film originally got made was it was originally being developed for Broadway. Hollywood found out about it and said, "Gosh darn it, let's do this in the movie." So they went and basically bought the play out, and then developed it for a film instead. And for a lot of money in those days, you know, several $100,000 to pull it off of Broadway. And back then, that type of money for something like that was rare, if not done hardly at all. But it got Anthony Newley and Sandy Dennis in this film, and it's a sweet, wonderful film about. They call it Sweet November because he gets to spend 1 month, November, with this woman who's going to die.
Right.
That's why she doesn't want to have a permanent relationship, because she's going to die. And she'll keep on having these 1 month relations. Well, this film's a little bit different than that, but she's still going to die. And he falls in love with her, and they fall in love with each other, but they can't be together. I really felt like the only reason why they did this movie is because, gosh, you got Keanu Reeves and you've got Charlize Theron, and they're going to have a romance, and someone's going to die because it's true love, and there you have it. It's something that after you hear us talking about it, you don't need to see it anymore. So,
Well, let me jump in with one real quick one. The Italian Job. That's one of my favorite movies with Charlize Theron. And it's a great little movie. And I guess it has a soft spot for me because when this movie came out, and I want to say it was the early 2000s, I can't remember exactly what year the movie came out. But I was driving a Mini Cooper at the time. And Mini Coopers were sort of like the it car. And there's this fabulous scene in the movie where there's like a whole like caravan of Mini Coopers driving around like crazy. It's almost like a scene from The French Connection, driving because they're chasing the guy who betrayed them, and they're trying to keep from getting killed. Anyway, it's really cute. What's really nice about the movie is that Charlize Theron, you're talking about her physicality, she plays a safe cracker, and she's like a total, bad to the bone type of person in this movie. It's just a lot of fun. Like, there's bad guys and worse guys. It's not about good guys. I mean, they're all crooks, but but some crooks are worse than others, and it's just, if you get the chance, just check out the Italian. It's like a yummy roller coaster ride,
And to
and
add
it's fun.
to add one quick thing to that, it's a lot better than the original.
Right. I was gonna say
Okay.
it's better than the first one,
It is a lot better
which
than
is
the
rare,
original.
but it
And
is better than
they
the
both have Mini Coopers in it. This is a better film. The new one is a better film.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Charlize Theron, pretty good actress. We all agree on that part. Sadly, she hasn't been in some of the best movies, but she's done her best she could to keep those movies afloat, and that has actually worked a little bit, especially for the box office. The Italian Job, I agree with you, great film. Sweet November, I agree with you, Larry, not a great film. And the Snow White and the Huntsman, not a great film. But again, in all three cases, Charlize Theron, she makes the films better. And that's the tale of a good actress, good actor. You make the film better by your presence, by your understanding your role, by you letting us know that, hey, you're working hard for us, and that's what really matters. And then, of course, the Atomic Bomb, we all agree, pretty decent film, and she did a really good job in it. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Bombshell, okay. Well, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with us here at A Real Point of View. Check out our YouTube channel, and we will have a recording of this there. So tell your friends, tell your families, tell everybody to come check us out on A Real Point of View on Facebook, and most definitely on our YouTube channel. And we appreciate you. Thank you, and stay safe out there. Peace, everybody.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye.
Ciao.